All right, Dan.
Let's do it.
Welcome to the Elevating Resilience podcast. Today we have a special guest, Dan Garrett, head football coach at Kean University. Met him a couple times through the years. Always had a connection between Tommy D'Ambrisi, his wife and I played together, a good friend, Sal Spompanato. And then at the Hall of Fame dinner, we had a huge connection where I looked at you and was like, we speak the same language and you get it. And I definitely think that your message can be heard by all the All-In Athletes community. And I just can't wait to learn from you today to make my mindset actually even stronger and my listeners. So welcome, Dan.
I love it, Ange. Thanks for having me. I'm happy and excited to be here. Fired up, man. I woke up this morning and said, I can't wait to get to talk to you.
Yeah, I know. I was so excited to send you the message. I'm like, how am I going to fire him up? I'm like, he's probably just as fired up as me.
Yep.
So
ready to go. That's it.
Ready to
you know
go.
the deal. Yeah. Big connections here between Tammy, Tommy, and Sal. That's pretty wild.
It is. And then like just finally being in the right space for me to be able to have these conversations. And there's no coincidence that the energy in the world works in a way like this.
I agree. God's plan. Everything does it. There's no accident. Things happen for a reason. And some people come in your life for a season or a reason and or both. And you know, here we are today because of all those things.
And like even said, I already had a plan what it was, but I have to interrupt it with Tommy D'Ambrisi when he was playing for you, he would always send me these messages that you would send to the guys, and he would take pictures of things. And then when I worked with him, he would have these Danisms. Yeah. And he's like, Coach Garrett, I can't tell you, like, you don't understand. Like, you guys are like the same. And I'm like, all right, I want to meet him. And then I remember you coming into the restaurant and we shook hands. And
we did. Just, I remember that day before the block is what the block is now.
Exactly.
In the very beginning stages. And
but it was still the block. It was this special place then.
Oh, yeah. He had his vision and it came to life. And then I remember meeting you there for sure.
He said to me last night, I said, we live in a world that we design. He looks at me and he's like, look at my new Willy Wonka quote. I'm like, if anybody knew that you were speaking Willy Wonka language with this restaurant.
It makes complete sense to me.
Makes complete sense.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Dan. So we're going to start out with you telling me a little bit about your coaching journey. We'll go into personal stuff. And then I just want to pick your brain.
Let's do it.
All right. So tell me your coaching journey.
Crazy. So I started out as a high school football player, picked a school out in Pennsylvania as a kid who grew up in Clifton, New Jersey. And I went out to a Division II school. And I came home after a year. I came back to Montclair State, played there. When my playing days were done, my head football coach, Rick Giannicola, asked me, hey, you want to coach? And I didn't hesitate. I had no reservations about it. I just said yes. I didn't ask how much money, didn't ask what I was coaching. I just said, absolutely. Yeah, I can't imagine my life without football. So I coached at Montclair State from 1997 through 2002. At the age of 25, I had an opportunity to become a defensive coordinator after 2 years of coaching. That's how much trust and faith he had in me. And I was part-time. So my full-time job was I was a corporate fitness trainer at the Gateway building in Newark. That was my full-time job, 5 a.m. till 2. Went up to Montclair State, which is right up the highway, from 2:30 in the afternoon until about 8, 9 at night. Did that until 2002, and then an opportunity came at Kean in 2003 to become a full-time coach in the state of New Jersey where I grew up. And I had an opportunity to become the defensive coordinator there. And I spent 3 years doing that. And in 2006, I had an opportunity to get elevated to the head coach. And I've been there ever since as the head coach. And if you'd have told me in 2003 I'd still be at Kean in 2024, I don't know. I'd probably have different words for you. But, God has a plan, and I was meant to do this. And the people that I've met and the opportunities I've had have been unbelievable with the relationships in my life because of football. Football has been the best vehicle I've known to teach life lessons.
Ah, love that. Yeah. See that? What is your favorite part of through the years? So 27 years we just said, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your favorite part is definitely what is?
Well, I mean, if you go back in time, right, I'm definitely a different coach than I was when I was 25 years old.
Okay.
At 23, 24, 25, you think coaching is yelling, screaming, and being seen and being like this ultimate motivator. And I'm still a motivator. I take more pride in motivating each individual. But I think today, it's more about the relationships. I think it's that transformational coaching component where you try to connect to the kids and get to know a little bit about them and really coach through tough love, and tough love is not, doesn't mean you have to be soft. It just means you're not demeaning. You can be demanding without being demeaning. And I think in all my time, especially at Montclair and Kean, I can't even put into words the relationships I have with the players that I still talk to because I was hard on them at times. And when I was younger, I was definitely harder, still hard, but demanding, but never demeaning because you coach with empathy and compassion. And I think when you coach with those things, That's a big difference
Yeah.
than demeaning and derogatory, and you could still get respect
Yeah.
that way. And I think the number one thing in any relationship is building trust, and,
Yeah.
and trust is a very hard thing to gain, but boy, it's an easy thing to screw up.
Yeah.
And I think, the days of do as I say and not
Mhm.
as I do are gone. I think you better walk the talk and you better lead from the front. And I've always been that way. I was raised that way. So I think those things are what I'm really, I
Yeah.
think those are the things that I enjoy the most.
Yeah.
The
That's-
players.
For sure. And being in coaching for 27 years, you've seen a lot of changes.
Yeah.
And a lot of changes in the kids, right? It's like a Y generation now, like we were just talking about.
Yeah.
And how much harder is it to be a coach?
I think every profession has its challenges, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I do think because we're talking about emotional beings,
Yeah.
I think the emotional being component, everyone's human, you better get to know what makes player A, B, C, D, E, all the way to Z, what makes them tick, because you can't coach a cookie cutter approach.
Yeah.
And I think that is the biggest difference. When we grew up, and you were coached by a legend,
Yeah.
and I know how she coached because I'm married to someone who played for her in 3 different sports.
Yeah.
As much as I tried coaching like that when I was 23, 24, 25, there's no way coaching like that today can exist.
Mm-mm.
So, I think kids are different because there's so many more distractions. Whether you want to say the internet, whether you want to say social media, like we're talking about, every kid has a tablet in their hand.
Yeah.
Every kid has a cell phone in their hand, and everyone's doing this
Mm-hmm.
and or this and or this.
Mhm.
And when we were younger, right, it was go play outside, go ride your bike, go pick up a stick or a ball and go play. There's no more free play. Like everything
Mhm.
now in today's world, everyone has a coach or a trainer. So like when we were younger, you just went out to the park and you played, whether it was pick up soccer, pick up basketball, stick ball. You just played. There's no
Yeah.
more free play.
No.
These kids are 7 days a week. When I hate saying it because I sound old and I'm getting there. Sundays when I grew up, there was no sports on Sunday.
No.
Sundays were God's day. It was the day
Yeah.
of rest. It was church. It was family day.
Mhm.
Sunday now it's just another day of the week for sports, whether that
Mhm.
in all sports, it doesn't matter. We're talking about basketball, soccer, baseball.
Mhm.
So there's no more free play for kids, and too many kids have too many distractions going on, and there's a lot of pressure on kids today with social media. The
Yeah.
perfect look, the perfect camp, the perfect athlete. There's no such thing.
Mhm.
So I think those are the different things in today.
Yeah.
And because of that, sometimes there's a level of immaturity more in older kids than there was 15, 20 years ago. I don't think kids
Okay.
have changed. I think society has
Yeah.
changed some things that made kids a little different, but I think all kids still crave discipline and want to be wanted and want to be loved and want discipline.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that.
Yeah. I love the way you say that because there's just so many excuses out there that kids are different. And yeah, is coaching a lot harder? Well, yeah, but if you're standing there as the mentor and you're a transformational coach instead of just an X's and O's coach, then you take on that challenge. That's what we do. And I think the difference is people are like, well, they won't listen.
Yeah.
They won't change. It's from their parents. It's from this. I think sometimes it's an excuse because they're not going to, the coach doesn't want to try. And I don't want to try because I think they're afraid of this relationship because it is vulnerable. Like as a coach, you have to be very vulnerable. And when they do trust you and when they do understand where you're coming from, they will be disciplined. They will put their phone down. They will run through the wall. Sometimes you have to tell them why more often, but they're going to do it. Yeah. I don't care. It's going to happen. And some kids are just going to have it and some kids aren't. Right. But that's what the challenge is.
Yeah. And the challenge is, especially when you get them in college, right? If I'm getting an 18-year-old freshman, I know I'm getting 18 years of habits. And some of those habits are good and some of them could be bad. Some have worse habits, some have better habits.
Yeah.
And that's the balance. That's the challenge of coaching.
Yes.
When you get kids from all different walks of life, socioeconomic and how they were brought up, doesn't matter what color, what race, what religion, there's just a lot of different things they are now coming here with. And when you have your standards defined as, hey, this is what we're doing, this is the culture you're walking into, this is what's allowable and acceptable, and this is what isn't, there's a big learning curve. So like, when you talk about having a 17, 18-year-old freshman, I said this now for every year I've been a head coach, we do something at night. We have a player manual. And the player manual is something that at the end of the day or the start of the day, we have this 110-page booklet. And we go through parts of it every day. And it's something that is off the football field. It's something that might be anecdotal, story, something about trust, something about relationships, anything that we could talk about that's going to make our team chemistry, synergy stronger. And like, it's different for a lot of kids because high school coaches, number one, they don't have the time to do that. They're, they're on the field. They're not really in the classroom. And it's just like, it's different. So when you have a kid coming in, the point of that was I don't expect a 17-year-old, 18-year-old freshman to get that mindset right away.
Yeah.
But if you're going to stay in our program, I expect you to grasp it a little more by the end of your freshman year.
Yeah.
I expect you to fully understand what that is your sophomore year. Then I expect you to live it and show these younger kids what it is by the time you're a junior, senior, because it's a half hour to an hour where we're not talking football. We're not doing X's and O's. It's a philosophical approach to get your mindset right, whether that be, again, some other topics, grit, mental toughness, how to overcome adversity, what resiliency looks like, what's perseverance look like, and stories or anecdotes that go along with that, because that's what serves you in life. If you can grasp this concept now through football, it's going to serve you the rest of your time as a father, as a husband, as a son, and whatever else you are down the road.
Yeah. Now, you said something really important I want to go back to. You said, like, the high school coaches don't have it. And I instantly was like, well, how are we going to get it in there? Right. And I know they don't have the time. Right. But, like, how much different do you think it would be if those kids did come in being able to talk those things, be a little bit vulnerable? It's Mental Health Awareness Month for men, right? And it's hard for guys to understand that true mental toughness is being like, hey, coach, like, I'm not okay, So, like, our big thing with All In is, like, how do we get the coaches to understand that those 30 minutes maybe are valuable, even though it can't be, all the time because of time restraints. But think about it. Like, you're getting this 18-year-old who's already had a manual.
Yeah.
And then it's like, let's go. This kid actually understands how to be resilient, reflective. Do you think it would benefit?
Yeah, I do. And listen, there's a lot of coaches who talk about those things. I just think that there's not enough time to, like, the way I'm presenting. I'm not saying that the way I do it is the end all be all. I'm just saying the way our camp structure is structured.
Yeah.
We have breakfast at 7 a.m. and they're with us till 9 o'clock at night. So there's all different meeting times. Whereas if I think that if someone did allot 20 or 30 minutes to have a different topic every day, whether that be before practice, after practice, or in between if they have 2 workouts, I think it's invaluable because, like, most men, we talk about these things. Most men are afraid to fail.
Yeah.
Most men are afraid to talk about their weaknesses. Most men don't want to talk about them being vulnerable. And here I am, I'm talking to, listen, at the end of the day, I'm a Caucasian male and I'm coaching 50 to 60% of African Americans who maybe have never been or had a male figure in their life, number one, at all. And now if they did, maybe they never had a Caucasian male figure in their life.
Yeah.
And I'm fortunate the way I was raised, it didn't matter about what you look like. My mom was a Catholic school teacher. It was always impressed upon in our house is treat people how you want to be treated.
Yeah.
So, but when you get somebody, their guards up because don't look like me, don't act like me, not from where I am. And so now you have all those things we just talked about men being afraid of, and I have to take 110 of them to try to march in the same line with all the things that we're talking about. So I think it is invaluable for every level. Once you can comprehend and have an understanding about what it actually entails and what in how much you can absorb.
Yeah.
Because it's not about the listening component, it's about comprehension. Because you can listen all day, but if you're not comprehending what I'm telling you, what are you going to do with that information?
Yeah.
And I think it's invaluable in high school. So maybe the varsity levels, junior, senior year. I'm like you tell anyone I've ever coached that, I still get text messages from guys who are 35. Coach, I keep this player manual on the side of my bed and I'm reading it, once a week just for some of the things that I still need and use.
Yeah. I just find it to be so invaluable because a lot of the kids in high school aren't going to make it to Division 3, Division 2, Division 1, it is. And so what is the purpose of athletics then? There should be a purpose for it when they're putting their blood, sweat, and tears in to understand and put together, hey, why are you going out there? What is this going to look like for you when you get to college? And it really is like, okay, well, coach, I don't have time for that. Or, I'm a teacher. We have lesson plans. I have a family. I have this, I have that. And to me, it's just like, that should be the priority over everything, because then you're going to find this kid running through a wall for you because you have a group of men that got together at 16, 17 years old and kind of sharing. And you're like, hey, Johnny over there is going through something. We're going to run through the wall. Yeah. But when Johnny's quiet and no one knows what's going on with Johnny, they're pissed off because he's upset, and it's exciting. It's exciting to hear that you're doing that. And the more college coaches I talk to, it's like, they're like, they just say that this is part of their culture. And a lot of high school coaches talk about culture, and you want a culture, you have to change it.
Well, I think culture is an overused term too. A lot of people love throwing around the buzzword, but what's culture? Culture is defined as, what's the purpose of culture, right? To drive behaviors that win. And when I say win, I'm not necessarily talking about winning on the field. I'm talking about, a championship is not something you get, it's something you become. So when you have habits that serve you well, you have a better chance to win, not just in life, not just in the classroom, but as an athlete. So like, it's about trying to get this deep rooted habit. And too many athletes and coaches think that they are defined by their athletic performance, and they're not defined by their athletic performance. They're defined as how they are as a human being. And again, where you have so much pressure on everyone to perform at these high levels, to perform, and at this perfect, there's no such thing as perfect. Like if you want to chase perfection, as that quote says, like awesome, then you'll end up excellent. But there's no such thing as perfection. But all this pressure's on these kids. And when they don't meet that expectation of a mom, a dad, a coach, or a teammate, then they feel like their value is diminished. But it's not how you're defined. Like we might be a moment where it's okay, I'm disappointed, but too many people define themselves by the lack of their performance, and that's not true. And that's the world we live in, though, because we are all being judged in the athletic world on wins. Period. Now, that's it. It's all you're defined by now.
Yeah, as coaches, sometimes I'm like, so what is your coach like? Can you answer these questions about your culture? They're like, yeah. And I'll ask, the questions will be like habits, behaviors, like what do you do at the end of a game? How do you address your players? Whatever. They have no idea, but yet when I get there, they're like, oh yeah, our culture's awesome. Every kid is this. And then I give the little survey to the kids and it's like, I'll show you guys something.
Left hand, need right hand.
Yeah. Like you really want to figure, like, this is why you're getting the parent complaints. This is why you have kids quitting. This is why there's not as much players joining teams anymore. And athletics isn't fun because of this.
Yeah. And culture to me is a living thing, that there's ebbs and flows, and it's the what, the how, and the why, right? So like, why do you do what you do, right? For me, not chasing logos, not chasing a salary. Well, why I've stayed at Kane for 22 years, the main thing is I've had opportunities to move on. I want to, number one, didn't want my family moving around the country because daddy wanted to be a coach. So once I got to grips with that and I wasn't chasing logos or steps anymore, I was okay with having it be, I want the people that I coach leaving here better men. People don't have to believe it. I'm just telling you, the people that know me, I want the people who come in our program leaving here better men, number one. Then it's the how and the what. Like, it's how you do anything is how you do everything. So whether that is, I'll tell our guys, like, well, how come you're not performing well on the football field? Because you're not going to your 8 o'clock class, because I keep having to hound you at study hall and you're not there. Or I'm getting these progress reports back and it's the same thing why you're not performing on the field. So it's like, you can't just have this on and off switch to do things, but that's part of your culture too. And then what do you do? What are you doing? Like for us, it's not just practice. We do have leadership meetings. We do have these team meetings where we talk about these things with the player manual. And it's how you practice, how you do things, what you do, and why are you doing it? And there's nothing wrong if you say, I'm doing this because I want to be a Big Ten head coach and I want to make the $1.9 million a year. It's awesome. But you better know your why, because that also goes with your culture.
Yeah. And some people never do.
Never do. Yeah.
And that's why it's just like this hamster wheel that they're on.
They're just turning. And then, like you said, with the surveys, I always put it into like this 10-80-10 thing. I got it from Brian Kite. He came to Kane about 10 years ago and he did a lecture for us. He's the E+R=O guy.
Yeah.
And he talked about 10-80-10, right? The bottom 10%, when you think about life, church, society, teams, is always going to be disruptive, defiant, and just kind of not happy. Then you have 80%, right? 80% of people in a team organization, they just do what they need to do to get along, to do the bare minimum. And then there's a top 10%, right? They're elite. They're exceptional. They're the winners, right? So if you think about it, you can talk about every walk of life, 10-80-10. And we talk about that every time. But we also, hey guys, you want to be this? Here's the bottom 10%. Boom. And we'll do it. And we reward the top 10%, because too many times in this world, the people who are the bottom 10% make the top 10% feel uncomfortable. Well, why should the people who aren't doing the right thing make this group feel uncomfortable? That's upside down backwards. It should be the 90% should make those 10% feel uncomfortable, because they're at least doing the bare minimum or everything asked. And when you think about the world, like, that's kind of the world too. Like, the people who don't do the right thing sometimes make the good people feel uncomfortable. We got to change that.
We do. Yeah, it's facts.
Facts. And what is that? That's just a little more common courtesy, a little better judgment, a little more empathy. And then, hey, like, we don't do it here that way.
One of the questions I have that always crosses my mind is like, you see a team that's winning, right? So you see any football program that's winning, and it's like, and you'll hear people talking at a bar, or like, I would love for my kid to go to that program. They have such a winning culture. And then you find out and you dig a little deeper, and it's like, they win because they have the Jimmies and the Joes, but their culture is horrible behind the scenes. You see that a lot?
Yeah. Listen, It's crazy because being there now 18, 19 years as a head coach, I've been through it all. And when I
Yeah.
first got into it, they said, if you stay in this thing long enough as a head coach, you're going to experience all the highs and all the lows.
Yeah.
We've had a team that's in the Hall of Fame in 2011, Tommy's a part of, that was one of the best teams in Canes history. And this last year, we didn't win a game.
Yeah.
And, the culture, though, at our point in time this past fall was also a wreck.
Yeah.
So it's not just the Jimmies and the Joes.
Yeah.
When you have better players, you can have the best culture or the worst culture. If your players are at least aligned to be on the team and walk the same line, you're going to line up and have a chance to win every weekend. If you have players, though, and your culture's a hot mess, but the other team's Jimmies and Joes are better, they're going to annihilate you.
Yeah.
Because I believe that culture beats scheme. I really do.
Yeah.
If everything's even and you have the same Jimmies and the Joes,
Oh, yeah.
I coach people more than I coach scheme, because the scheme is a scheme. Like, if your players are better, you're going to win. I don't care if it's field hockey, basketball,
Oh, yeah.
Football, you have a quarterback, you got a shot. Pitching, you have a stud pitcher, you got a shot. Field hockey, you got someone who's going to put in the back of the net.
Yeah.
So like but when all is even, culture beats scheme every day of the week for me.
Yeah.
And you better have that culture that's strong. So yeah, 100%. And at the higher levels, the guys you talk to that coach at those levels, there's some great human beings out there, but even they have to know what they have to recruit to get the best player. It's not always.
No, it's not always easy.
It's not easy to toe that line.
Yeah. But you still stay the course, right?
Yeah.
Because you're making better men.
Yes.
That's your why.
That's the why.
That's the why. And that's what's important.
That is. And that's also why, a dear friend of mine, he's been a Division II head coach. He's a Jersey guy. He started Division III. He went to Central Michigan. He was a coordinator. He's in the Ivy League now. When he was head coach at Northern Michigan, he asked me 2 different times, come on out. Can't do it. He's like, why? I'm like, I just don't want my kids moving around the country. My wife's a teacher. And like, that jump, it wasn't as important to me, because I knew if I made that jump, that wasn't the last jump. Like, I'd be there 2-3 years and I have to take another jump, and we'd have to move again. And then now it's also, the why again, right? This is the first part of the why, is I don't want my kids despising daddy in their 20s and 30s because I kept moving them every 3 or 4 years, because that's kind of what you have to do in this profession.
Exactly.
If you want to chase that highest rung.
Yeah.
And, I still talk to my dear friend all the time. He's like, man, the guy that I hired as my DC is the head coach at Navy now. And he'll say that to me. I'm like, yeah, I know, but maybe it wasn't just meant to be.
Yeah.
Like, we're still friends and all that, but like my why was vastly different.
Yeah.
And I don't know if, I'm not saying it's not possible. I just don't know if that's as much as an emphasis. I know there's great coaches out there who put an emphasis on that, but that's my emphasis every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every day, whether it's in season, off season, recruiting. I want, and I even say it because when you recruit, people say things, right? There's fluff in recruiting to get it to sound really enticing, to get someone to say yes to you, and there's substance. So when I'm sitting down with a mom, dad, or a kid, I'm like, hey, I want you to leave here a better man. And I'll say right to them, it's not because your mommy and dad are sitting here. Like, you don't have to believe me. Talk to anyone I've coached. And that's really, your reputation. And your reputation has to speak so loudly they should barely hear a word you say.
Yeah. Wow, that's a good one too.
Yeah.
Let's go. Dropping
let's
dimes
go.
over here.
What did Tommy call him?
Danisms. Yeah. Coach Garrett. I love it. I love it. I love it.
You get me going. It's over.
It's over.
It's over. Yeah. We can do this for hours.
I know. So mindset. So how do you work, like, your habits, your beliefs? Obviously, you're a consistent, disciplined man to, manage coaching, making that commute, having 3 boys, a wife, good husband. Like, what do you do to take care of you? Like, what's your routine?
My routine. So I'm very blessed to have great friends in my life that I work out with 4 or 5 days a week, 5:30 in the morning. We meet at Bradley Beach, Jersey Fitness Shop. And when I'm not in season, that's where we meet. It's we typically, that's how my day starts. I'll work out there for 45 minutes to an hour. I'll get my walk in, the cardio. I used to be an avid runner. I used to run 40 to 45 miles a week until I got a fake hip. I used to run with Tommy all the time on the boards. So now I don't run anymore, but I walk. But that's how it starts. And really, to start my day, I use social media. I do a positive tweet or post every morning. And when people say, I love your stuff, it's really not for them.
Yeah.
It's for me to start my day with a disciplined, positive thought, because the world, there's so many things that are negative.
Yeah.
I start my day every day, probably for the last 15 years, with a positive message on social media.
Wow.
And it's not like I stay on social media and scroll. I'll post it, I'll send it, I'll leave it there. My parents live in Florida, so I might do a little more on Facebook than I will X.
Yeah.
But I start my day with a positive thought, because there's so much coming at you. There's so many negative things and so many. So I start my day with a disciplined thought. First, I start my day with getting out of bed, because the alarm goes off and I can hit the snooze and say, I'm not lifting today with my buddies. But that component is why I get out of bed, because I don't want to leave them stranded, right?
Yeah.
So the whole teamwork again, it comes back to that. And I think it's just a mindset where discipline leads every choice, whether that's as a husband or as a dad. And I pray on it every morning. I pray
Yeah.
every morning.
Yeah.
I think I'm a religious man. I'm a man of faith. Like I said, my mom's a Catholic school teacher. I got back to my religion really strong after the season we had when I said we didn't win a game. And
Yeah.
I leaned on him a lot.
Yeah.
And the last 9 months, when I pray in the morning, I pray out loud.
Mhm.
And I thank him for my family. I thank him for my wife.
Mhm.
And I just know that every decision I make, and every decision I made since my oldest was born almost 20 years ago, it's never been about me since he's been born.
You're making me cry, Coach.
Yeah, listen, but I mean that when you ask that, that's
Yeah.
real. Like, and I'll share that with my team in camp.
Yeah.
I'll share that with them to make it vulnerable, because to build that positive relationship, I want them to know that my world revolves around my children and my wife. And it's not, so what I'll caveat with that when talking to my team is, and I'll use this scenario, and they laugh. As a man who's in this world who might like the female flesh, I don't go to certain places where I throw dollar bills out, because if you walked in as a player and I'm telling you what a family man I am, and you happen to walk in a spot where I'm in that vicinity,
Mhm.
now, well, coach, how could you be a family man where you're sitting there?
Yeah.
And if guys do that, that's fine. I'm not judging. I'm just saying I don't do that. So like, that's it. Like, every decision I make is based on, am I going to make my family proud? Am I going to be the ultimate example for my kids and try to be the best husband possible? And son, like, my parents are still alive. So I want to be those things because it's important to me.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to have my team break down on family, and I'm going to talk in front of them about this, like, my why is my 3 children and my wife.
Yeah.
They need to know that.
Yeah.
And I want to share that with them so they
Yeah.
understand that. So that's every decision I make, because in the fall, there's been things I've missed over my 22 years now at Kane. My first year as head coach, my grandfather died,
Mhm.
my dad's dad. And I spent summers down in Florida with him.
Mhm.
Now I'm 3 weeks in summer camp and he passes away. My dad calls me to tell me, and I say, I don't think I can go. Like,
Mhm.
I'm going to start crying.
Yeah.
I don't think I can go
Yeah.
because I'm a head coach and I'm in my camp for the first time. And then he's like, okay, don't worry. My grandmother dies 2 weeks later.
Oh.
Same situation.
Yeah.
So I missed my father's. My point is, you're going to miss things as a head coach in 4 months
Mhm.
of the season. Like
Mhm.
last fall, and the worst fall of my career, my middle guy, Jake, who's 15, we just spoke about earlier at Ocean, had his confirmation. We have a game in Virginia Beach that weekend.
Mm.
I missed my son's first, holy confirmation. So there's things that you're going to miss that this job takes away. But I want my kids, my players, my kids at Kane to know I got my family here, but there's also going to be sacrifices to make, because this family is going to miss out on a lot of things in those 4 months where it's a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
And that's where Tammy comes in. She's amazing.
Yeah.
She's an amazing support system for me, because there's a lot of wives who don't have that support, and they don't end well.
No.
The marriages are rocky,
Mhm.
but it also then doesn't allow you to be the best coach you can be for the
Mhm.
players and coaches that you're with.
Mhm.
So I am blessed with the family. So again, long win, right? Discipline in the morning, get out of bed. Every decision I make is for those 4 people.
Yeah.
And because of the upbringing I have by my mom and dad, like, every decision I make is based on those 4. And is it the right decision to be the best dad, best father, best son, best coach I can be every day?
Yeah.
Because I'm not just a head coach. I'm a father, son, and husband first, and a head coach.
Yeah. And when you got deeper into your relationship with God, like, did you find more peace? Like,
Yeah. I was in it, man. You were talking about mental health. Like, I never thought, full transparency, like, I knew mental health existed, but in my 49 years on this planet prior to turning 50, I never experienced it. I was strong. I was everything I needed to be for everybody. But when you're not winning and you got to stay strong in front of people, and I don't know if anyone, my players ever knew, but like, I was as low as I can ever been in my life.
Wow.
That faith, my God, and the praying and getting back to church helped me tremendously.
Yeah.
Like, to the point where I was trying to find the right person to go talk to. And I talked to Tammy a lot. I've talked to 2 or 3 people in my life who I'm really close with, but I never had to go to a professional, because I think I put all my faith in God, and the clarity that I got from my religion helped me to get to where I am today through those past 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
And again, sometimes the anxiety we place on ourselves is made up, because when we're in the season, I was so worried about what people were thinking, because for so long we had a very competitive program, and we won a lot, we won championships, and I'm so worried about what people think. And now you're in the season, you're like, how am I going to recruit? Man, we didn't win a game. And I'm like, we had 150 people on our campus between January and March.
Mm-hmm.
One family asked me about our record.
There you go. Wow. That's powerful.
One family.
Yeah.
Now, whether or not the other families didn't have the courage, or maybe they got an answer from a player,
Yeah.
but sitting down one-on-one with the head coach in our
Yeah.
recruiting at the end, before we said goodbye,
Mhm.
and the whole time leading up to those months, I'm like, oh man, how am I going to deal with this? How am I going to handle this? What am I
Yeah.
going to say?
Yeah.
One person asked,
Yeah.
one mom.
And that's God's plan. To
God's
put you
plan.
through what you went through
Yeah.
to bring you back to Him, and then
Grounded me.
He grounded you.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so we all put this anxiety and worrying, right? And it's in the Bible too. Like,
Mm-hmm.
worry doesn't solve any of today's problems. All it
Mhm.
does is take away today's strength.
Mm-hmm.
So I pray on that every morning too. I pray
Yeah.
to help me bury any worry, angst, anxiety, and
Yeah.
and fill me with the strength I need for today, and not worry about what's ahead of me. Just
Yeah.
be the best I can be in the moment, and
Yeah.
that's all faith.
It is.
Yeah,
Andy
because if
says
we
to
allow
me-
to do it,
Mhm.
it's gonna take
gonna-
over.
Oh yeah, faith over fear. I mean, I wouldn't be sitting here like in a podcast if I didn't have that mindset for the past 2 years, leaving a career, you
Yeah.
know, and just being like, this is truly my passion to sit across. You know, I want to tell you something really funny. I wrote myself a letter 2 years ago when I left teaching. I do this kind of strategy, and it's like, write yourself a letter and then read it in 2 years. And one of my dreams was to have a podcast and have a football coach on it,
I love it.
and it happened.
You are.
And it's crazy
Yeah.
because whatever you call it, manifestation, some
Yeah.
people call it. Me, I say that I set every decision up in my life, even when I take 3 steps back emotionally, to be where I am today, because I just took the action steps, and then God sets up the people in the path, and God sets up the experiences in the path. And it's like, I just want to tell people, like, to keep going. Whatever that dream is in your heart, or whatever that risk you're afraid to take it.
Yeah.
You're gonna be okay.
Yeah.
You know,
It's a
It's
very
scary.
powerful thing when you put things in the universe.
it's so
And like
powerful.
you said, action steps.
Yeah,
It starts in the
action.
mind, right? So
Mhm.
you have this mind, you have this thought,
Hmm.
and then these thoughts become these words are written down on a letter,
Hmm.
and then those words or thoughts become actions, right?
Mhm.
And if it never manifests to actions, you're just sitting there, and it's not a goal, then it's just a mere dream,
It is.
and you have to have action behind
You
that.
do.
And it's it's just crazy. It's not coincidence. I don't believe in coincidence.
No.
I believe in
Mhm.
opportunity when you prepare yourself a certain way. And,
Yeah,
you know,
Definitely. All right. So, what's your favorite book, Coach?
wow.
You
there's
probably have a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Extreme Ownership was a good one with Jocko Wilkin. Above the Line with Urban Meyer always comes a thought.
Yeah.
Nick Saban had one early on that he had. You know, there's one more. The Power One More is another good one that I read recently. I
Ed
mean, there's
Milet.
yeah,
Yeah, he's
yeah.
good. Hmm.
There's so many. The Energy Bus back in the day when I read that, John Gordon,
Oh,
The
he's my
Energy
favorite.
Vampires.
Yeah.
I lean on that a lot because
It's
know,
so simple the way he says
Yeah.
things. I mean, it's just like, yeah, that's what it is. Why do you have to philosophize it anymore?
exactly. So those are some of my top ones that I
Yeah.
always lean back to and reread.
Mhm. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
And how about, what's it like being a dad? You got 3 athletes.
Ah, man. You know, anytime one of my former players has a kid or getting ready to have a kid, I say, man, just enjoy it, because once it happens and you see your child for the first time, there's not going to be any words.
Yeah.
There's not going to be any moment or anything that happened in your life prior that you can even
Mhm.
compare it to.
Mhm.
So, I mean, those were 3 of the best days of my life.
Yeah.
I mean, you just can't when you hold your son for the first time, and again, as much as sometimes the human side comes out in the last 20 years, like, yeah, I mean, is there exhaustion at times?
Yeah.
Because I am, like, Tammy and I, we're selfless parents. Like,
Mhm.
once we've had kids, like, we don't really go out. We don't go
Yeah.
to parties. We don't do things like that. It's always been about our 3 boys. And that's what we
Mhm.
decided when we wanted to have children. Whatever we were doing, it's going to be about them 3, however we
Yeah.
can provide and put them in the best situation to have a better life than what we had. And we had it pretty good. I mean, Tammy
Yeah.
grew up great. I grew up great.
Mhm.
Great family structures, but it's just every decision again comes
Yeah.
back to them, Tammy
Yeah.
and I. And we do. And it gets, as a parent, as a human, at times, just like, you know, because
Mhm.
but I mean, just watching them in the blessing, I thank the Lord every day for the blessings of them, because I get to watch them do things that people wish they could do. And I don't mean that in an arrogant way,
Yeah.
but just to be able to run, jump. I mean,
Yeah,
there's people
so simple.
wheelchair bound, and my 3 kids aren't that.
Yeah.
They're smart, intelligent, athletic kids, and they're personable, and they make good decisions. And
Mhm.
you know, so all those things are just super awesome to have. I
Yeah.
can't believe I have a 20-year-old in the fall already. He'll be 20 in October. But yeah, I mean, there's
And he just had his first season at Monmouth, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
he was first season at Monmouth, happy as anything, redshirted there. But I mean, he's
Good.
happy, and that's, you want to talk about crazy. So as a football coach in this world who has a son playing college football, and when they say, like, how was his first fall? Did he play? And I'm like, no, he redshirted. And like, one of the first things out of most people's mouths are, was he transferring? I'm like, No, why? Well, he didn't play. I'm like, yeah, he redshirted. There's some really good players there. He's going to develop there. Like, oh, he's not going anywhere. I'm like, no, he loves the place. He loves the coaches. He's happy. He's got 1 A-. Everything else is an A. Like, no, guys, he's extremely happy there. He's going to develop and he's going to buy his time. He's going to earn it the old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
But even in that world, like, that's the first thing people want to say.
That's so bad.
Is he staying?
Yeah.
He's staying. He loves the coaches there. He's having a great experience in every way, shape, and form.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And so like the push and pull of just to give advice to parents that have athletes as well. And I mean, you're a coach, you've seen it from every angle, right? Like, what is the push and pull for like when they come home and they're frustrated and you either want to tell them to suck it up or when is it time to advocate for themselves? Like, what's your philosophy on that?
It's kind of funny because Tam and I talk about it all the time. It's definitely different with our number 3, who's going to be 9 in July. He's still playing like youth sports versus when Shane was 9 and playing youth sports. My perspective has completely changed, right?
Yeah.
The whole goal of youth sports, especially up until 12, in my opinion, is fun. F-U-N, and fundamentals, right? Teach them the game, let them have fun, want them to come back. The perspective in youth sports in today's world, in my opinion, is crazy. We throw around this word elite. We throw around that you have to play one sport all year round. So I have a different perspective. When I'm coaching youth baseball with my 8-year-old now, I can give a you-know-what less. If they win by 20, lose by 20, I'm going to teach them. I have 3 rules with the 8-year-olds in Little League. Our number 1 rule, which they remember by the end of the season, our number 1 rule is have fun.
Yeah.
Our second rule is to be a great teammate. We'll teach them how to be a great teammate. Our number 3 is try your best.
Yeah.
Period. That's all I care about. So when they get older, though, high school, like when Jake says, I don't, what should I do? Talk to the coach.
Yeah.
Well, talk to the coach. I'm not talking to your coach. You're 15. You're going to talk to your coach. Mommy and daddy don't do that. You're going to learn to have a big boy conversation if you want to know anything. And I'm not talking about complaining. I'm talking about, I don't know what time weight room is. Text the coach. Well, I don't know what time. Ask the coach. Let your son or daughter communicate with the coach.
Yeah.
Have them build a rapport. Have them build a line of communication. Yes, they're minors, I understand, but that also builds skills for life.
Yeah.
So, and as Shane gets older, I just enjoy it. I don't put any coaching on whatsoever. I'm a dad. When I go talk to those guys, I'm a dad. I don't ask. I mean, I'm friends with Brian Gabriel and I met Brian Gabriel, who's the offensive line coach, in 2003.
Yeah.
And I've been friends with Brian Gabriel for 21 years.
Wow.
I don't ask a dang thing about how Shane's doing.
Wow.
I'm his dad, and there's a line.
Yeah, there's a line.
And too many people don't have lines.
No.
They think they can do and say whatever you want. Why? Because social media has allowed us to be editor-in-chief of our own paper every day. And that gets blurred when you go ahead, right? And you talk to people.
That's a good one.
But isn't it true?
It's so true.
So for me, like the perspective, and I joke with Tammy all the time, at 12 years old, until they're 12, you know what sports mean? Nothing. The win or loss means nothing. Teach them to have fun. Teach them to be a great teammate.
Yeah.
Teach them to work harder if they didn't make the all-star team.
Yeah.
Don't teach them to blame the umpire or blame a bad call or blame the coach for not playing you. No. It means nothing. If as a parent, if you're not teaching those things, you're failing your child. Yeah. In my opinion.
You are.
Yeah.
So now let me ask you this. If your son texts the coach, and the coach has this rule, you don't text me, you should know it, no communication. When do you jump in as a dad to see that the coach is demeaning, not demanding?
There's an absolute difference.
On that?
And I think text messaging can get misinterpreted. So if a message comes through like that, I think I would tell my son, talk to him in person tomorrow. Yeah. Say, hey, coach, I just want to make sure because I don't want to miss anything. Yeah. And then if it comes back, Dad, he was really mean. He said X, Y, and Z. I think if you get that verbally, I think that's different.
It's very.
Because, the text message thing, you look down, you read a text, and you can interpret it however you think you need to interpret that. Yeah. And there's no tone behind it or anything, but you can interpret it a lot of different ways if you just read a text. Yeah. So I think that I've never had to interject yet with any of my son's coaches. Yeah. But it's also, there might be a little more. I might have to really, my threshold, maybe some parents' threshold is here. Yeah. My threshold might be more here. Yeah. Because I want them to feel that, to go through that, to maybe feel uncomfortable a little bit. Because being uncomfortable isn't a bad thing. No. Being uncomfortable is actually a really good thing. Yeah. Because when you're uncomfortable, you learn how to grow. Yeah. And that's those conversations that I make my kids have. Like, you don't like it, but I don't care. You're gonna understand. You're gonna grow from this. Yeah. This uncomfortable feeling that you're having.
I have a whole theory that I'm like, so like I want to know what you think, honestly. Tell me honestly. Like, so like I have this big theory, like the big triangle for all in is like coach, parent, athlete. And I believe like nowadays, I understand parents are very hard in the high school world. Like I get it. But I do believe that again, it comes down to like this communication aspect. Like if the coach is willing to take a step back, I'm not saying you have to be completely vulnerable, but just say in the beginning of the season, listen, here's the lines. Okay. I'm going to care about your kid's everything. Like I'm going to make your kid into the greatest man he can be in this year of this season. But I won't talk to you about, playing time. I won't talk to you about my decisions. I'd ask for you to be respectful, But if something's going on with your kid and you need to talk to me, give me a call. And if something's going on my end, I'm going to give you a call. And that communication is open. Coach, do you agree with that in this day and age, or do you think that I'm crazy to think that changes athletics?
I think you're 1,000% correct. I teach a class at Kane now for the last 7 years in the phys ed department. It's called Scientific Principles of Sport, and one of the chapters we have is, it's everything. It covers everything, right? Mm-hmm. Practice scheduling, practice planning, deliberate practice, and on and on. But one of the chapters we discuss is first parent meeting outline. Mm-hmm. And that's it, like communication. Lay the standard out, what you expect, what's allowable, what you will tolerate, what you won't tolerate. I think communication in every relationship in life is the end all be all. So whether you're talking about sports, athletics, communication with a church, a business, like you need to set that tone early on. And it's not like the hammer coming down. Like it's just saying, this is what we're going to do. Here's the parameters we're going to work within, and let's all stay within them so we don't have any drama. And I think communication, I think you're right on, because they are still minors.
They're still minors.
And people in today's world forget that in the way they talk to kids, the way they treat kids, they forget their kids, and they think just because they have this authority over them. Yeah. Well, there's a big difference between authority and a servant leader.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you're a trusted adult.
Yeah. But when you're authority, you think that it's okay to bark and scream and yell. As a servant leader, you might understand and comprehend again a little bit more what that responsibility is to be called a coach. Yeah. To two minors. Yeah. Two guys and girls who are 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 years old. Yeah. You're not coaching a lot of 18-year-olds. No. You're not. You're coaching kids. Yeah. And they treat them, and even in youth sports, like there's a lot of people who try coaching 9-year-olds like they're college kids.
They do.
It's insane.
It's insane. They don't know what they're setting it up for. Like that's what, like I constantly say, we are living in a reactive world. Where is the proactive? Like I talk to the athletic directors and it's like, hey, you know what? I got a great idea. You're gonna have them sit down, hockey team. It's gonna be the hockey coach. It's gonna be all the parents. It's gonna be all the kids, and we're gonna have like almost like a workshop about what this template looks like for what this parent meeting is gonna be. And let me just do a study. Let me see if everything shifts in that space with parents and understanding. And they're like, well, I don't really have time. And is that necessary? And some people are going to want to do it and some people don't. It's a standard, in my opinion, that has to be done.
I agree.
Across the board.
I agree. I don't think there's any reason why any coach at any level shouldn't have that when they're dealing with minors. Yeah. Because the communication can't just fall on a 14-year-old. Yeah. That communication shouldn't just fall on a 14-year-old. And I get they set up Google Classrooms and Reminds and all these other things, but there still needs to be, we're not talking about a weekly meeting. No. And some high school coaches do that. There are coaches who I know who have weekly meetings where they bring the parents in, they watch the film of the high school game, and they let Q&A with the moms. They even call it Monday Night Moms Night, where they let the moms come in. There's plenty of coaches do things like this. But at the end of the day, you're talking about when guys say they don't have enough time, we all have the same amount of time. Yeah. We all do. Mm-hmm. It's just you don't want to make the time. Yeah. You're talking about a parent meeting. If it goes more than an hour, there's a problem. Mm-hmm. There's an issue with communication. That parent meeting should be 15, 20 minutes of what your parameters are, 15, 20 minutes of Q&A tops, and it should be over in 30, 40 minutes. Yeah. But it should be a standard, like you're saying, for every sport in high school. Absolutely. There's no reason why it shouldn't. And I'm teaching that for 7 years because I do think, because you're also letting the parents know who you are. Mm-hmm. You're letting them know your background, your qualifications, what means the most to you and why. Yeah. And then here's our practice times. Here's our practice schedule. So you're giving all this information out. And now you're not relying on the 14-year-old to worry about texting your coach. Yeah. Hey, when's practice again? Yeah. Hey, what time is it going to be over? Because my mom has to pick me up and she's at work. So I might need to get another ride from someone else. Yeah. Because that's a reality too, right? Yeah. Yeah. And some coaches will say it ends at 6, but they're out there till 7:45 at night, and mom and dad are waiting in the parking lot for an extra hour, 45 minutes.
Exactly. I love it, Coach. We could go on forever.
Yep.
Yeah, but thank you. I'm gonna come take your course.
You're
I think
welcome to
it'd be
sit
great.
in
Or maybe you
anytime.
can help me sit down and come up with a template for the parents.
I have one
'Cause-
already. We share it with
Oh,
my
let's
team.
go.
I mean, with
All
the
right.
class.
Awesome.
Done deal.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
We're gonna do
love
another
it.
one.
Anytime.
This is the
Took
best.
me 5 minutes to get here. This is a no-brainer. I can actually walk here and be here in 20 minutes.
I'm so excited.
Thanks for having me. This
grow
was
this
relationship.
relationship. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's
Awesome.
grow it. Let's do
Okay.
it. All right, Ange. Thank
thanks.
you.